I'm at work on my 51st painting here, and in the next episode I will discuss that. But for this episode I want to go back in time and show you some of my earliest paintings. I'm going to do that over a series of a few episodes. I'm going to show you all 50 paintings from when I started to the current. So get ready for that, and again, this painting will be in the next episode. Thanks. So I wanted to give you some background on where I came from with my paintings. So before I start showing you these paintings, let me tell you how it all began. I'll be brief. It was the fall of 2004, and I was living in Long Beach, and I had come home from school. I was going to college at Long Beach State, and I came home from school one day and from class, and I saw on PBS Bob Ross, Joy of Painting. Everybody knows Bob Ross, the Joy of Painting, the most enjoyable painter to watch ever. And so I figured, okay, he's coming on at this time of day, this day of the week. I think I'm going to record it, and I'm going to start collecting some episodes. So that's what I started doing. It was about October, I guess, of 2004. On a particular Friday in December of that year, I'm watching the recorded episodes, and I was thinking back to when I was younger. And when I was younger, I was thinking, someday I'm going to get into oil painting. And as soon as I said that, I was thinking, well, what am I waiting for? It's not like you have to be a certain age to be a painter, And so I went online and kind of was motivated, inspired, and I said, well, I got to get some paints and stuff. So I figured I'm watching Bob Ross. I'll buy the Bob Ross kit. So I bought that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to start painting. I didn't want to paint like Bob Ross. I just wanted to reap the enjoyment of painting like Bob did. So it was only the second or third painting where I started to really experiment with my own style, trying to find who I was as a painter. And so by the fourth or fifth painting, I was doing my own thing. So that first day, it was January 1st, 2005. I got a canvas, went to the art store, got a canvas. I had the paints, I had a disposable easel, or disposable palette. I didn't have an easel, so what I did was I was on the back patio of my apartment, and I put this canvas up on a mini refrigerator that we had in the patio that was on a table, and I just used that. And but I didn't know any different because I'd never oil painted really before, and so it was one of those things where you just buy stuff as you go along. When you realize you need something, you want to be better at it, So I was very crude to begin with. So this is what I came up with. And yeah, it ain't much. Here's the issue with this painting. It's called Frozen North, and I basically just called that because I used so much blue in it. When I was painting this one, we had to go to dinner. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, we were going to go to dinner that night with some folks, and so I didn't have much time to paint. I only had about an hour to paint, but I really wanted to get started, so I just rushed through and didn't put much thought into it, and I just really it was a chance for me to get to figure out how does the brush work, and how does the paint feel on the canvas and on the brush, and so that's what this is about. This really is, it's nothing. I don't even really consider it a true painting because there's not a whole lot of thought went into it. I was practicing some technique. It was an excuse to try and paint a tree like Bob Ross and try and paint a mountain like Bob Ross, and that's all it was. So just a few days later, I had a whole day to do whatever I wanted. I wanted to start a fresh painting, really put some thought into it, and I came up with this one. And this painting there was a lot of emotion behind this painting. When I was painting it, I was actually feeling pretty down, and a friend of mine had visited, and then he was going back home, and he lived across the country, and so I was feeling down that day, and a little bit lonely, and so I learned that day that your emotions do come out when you're painting. Again, another painting where I used a lot of blue. I chose a cold theme, and I called it Secluded Spring because you can see in certain parts there's some green grass popping up and the snow is melting a little bit. But in general, it's a very cold painting with a lot of dark colors, a lot of opaque colors. I will say too that the first two paintings, the winter scenes, were inspired by one of the episodes that I recorded of Bob Ross, where he used to paint winter scenes, and it was just one of my favorite paintings that he did. So I was inspired by that too. It became the first painting that I gave to my wife. Again, she was my girlfriend back then. And on the tree stump, you see her initials there. So the first few paintings, that was kind of my little thing where I put my wife's initials. Kind of like what Thomas Kincaid did. He put his wife's initials in his paintings. Alright, so moving on to the third painting. I think this was maybe a couple weeks later. I did this painting. This one, yeah, it's really just another Bob Ross inspired painting. Actually, this painting I was trying to follow an actual Bob Ross painting, and it really kind of became apparent here. This is about where I realized, okay, I've got a feel for the brush, I've got a feel for the paints. After I've done this one, like, I kind of want to do my own thing, but you know, let's see what we can do. So this one's, you know, Sunset Pond, and again, it was really just it's kind of an experiment, a chance for me to get the rust off. Or actually, you can't have rust if you've never done this before. I guess it's just a chance for me to get some experience. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. I use some warm colors. That was one of the reasons I was attracted to this painting. It has a lot of warm colors, and I had been only using cold colors to this point. So that's what I've got. I got something to counterbalance all the cold and the depressing up to that point. Alright, the fourth painting. So here is the very first example of me saying, I'm going to create my own style. I'm going to express myself with my own work. I'm just going to go for it. And so I took on what ended up being a very difficult painting for such a lack of experience. So I took on this painting called Donna to Gabe, based on a photograph I found online of the Golden Gate Bridge. And you know, at the time I thought I did a pretty good job. And I still think that for the time that it was. I didn't have really very much experience. I was learning perspective, I was learning shadow, I was learning tones and values. Boy, I learned a lot there. I learned the importance of sketching. I learned the importance of composition. I think it's the first painting where I actually had something that resembled a real composition. So we move on to the fifth painting now. This is called Hitting the Road. This painting was created as a gift to my brother. At the time, he was going to become a truck driver, and he's changed professions since then. And so what I wanted to do was create something that would kind of capture the spirit of the open road and traveling and seeing the country. And so this is what I came up with. And what grabbed me about this painting at the time, it was my first attempt to create light and shadow. And you can see at the bottom corner there with the guardrail, the shadow that comes off from the sunlight, and you know, cast it on the road. And I think it came out pretty well. I mean, at the time I was happy with it. Now it's pretty crude, but I was pretty happy with that. That looked pretty good. The mountains, kind of still Bob Ross type. I wasn't sure how to approach the mountains yet on my own, but I would get there, as you'll see later. I'd figure out my own style. And actually, to this day, I'm developing my own style with the mountains. So that was Hitting the Road. Alright, so the sixth painting was called Misty Creek. Misty Creek was the very last painting, I believe. I think it was the last painting. Yeah, it was the last painting that I modeled after the Bob Ross show. It was inspired by a painting that he did, but I put some elements in there that were not in his original. And it was, I'm not really sure what my goal was with this. It was, I think, more just an experiment. It was just an excuse to paint one night. I kind of remember, I think I was a little stressed out after a class, had some rough exams or something like that. So I was like, I need to paint something, and I couldn't think of something to paint, so I was like, let me go look at one of the episodes of Bob Ross, and I'll paint that. And it's okay, I mean, for what it is, it's fine. It's got a lot of color to it. Not much I can say about this. These early ones are kind of, they didn't have a lot of thought in them. So let's move on to the next painting, number 7, Castle Lake. Okay, so this painting I saw in a calendar, I had a calendar all about castles. And this one particular castle, and I don't remember what this is based on, but kind of grabbed my attention. I thought it looked pretty cool, and thought, yeah, you know, maybe I can paint that. So this became my second attempt at painting something from a photograph after Donna and Gabe. And this painting really highlights my weakness in my kind of my hand-eye coordination as being an artist. I didn't replicate the color very well. I didn't even replicate the form very well. Didn't know how to paint grass. Shadow, reflected light, no clue, and you can kind of see it in this painting. Clouds aren't very formed. There's actually no real form to these clouds, just a single layer of white. So Castle Lake for me is one of those yardstick paintings. It showed me where I was, and more importantly, what I needed to work on. There's a lot of weaknesses in this painting, but you know, it was okay. Back then, I was finishing paintings within a week, and now a lot of these paintings take me a month. I'll paint and then I'll go away from them because I want to think about it. Then I'll paint some more and then I'll go away. It takes a while. If I ever really want to make a serious effort to try and get into a gallery and be represented, I'm gonna have to paint more than this. But now we come up on number 8, the Pirates Fantasy. I have a big interest in pirates, and I was very influenced by the pirate painter and fantasy painter Don Mates. Don Mates you would know from his most successful, I don't know if it's his most successful, but his most famous piece, or at least his most recognized piece, is on a bottle of rum. Captain Morgan. That is his painting of Captain Morgan, one of his paintings. So anyways, I've always been a fan of his, and one year I had a calendar of Don Mates paintings, a bunch of pirates, all pirate stuff. And it inspired me to do my own pirate themed painting. And as was the problem frequently that first year, I had a real hard time fleshing out ideas. All I knew is I wanted it to be featuring the ocean, featuring some sort of skeleton pirate, maybe a wrecked ship. So I was also inspired by Pirates of the Caribbean, the scene where you have the wrecked ship and the skeleton's still, steering the ship in the storm, kind of like a ghost. So I was inspired by that, and I look at it now, and to me it looks like a painting that had a whole bunch of singular elements with nothing to tie them together. The rock out there in the ocean, that was inspired by the the Disney Peter Pan island, Skull Island. Down here, the pirate laying on the beach, Pirates of the Caribbean inspiration. The ghost ship, same thing. Obviously I had grander visions of what that painting could become, but whatever. It just sits in my closet now and gathers dust because I wouldn't hang this up. Number 9. Okay, so it's called Somewhere Near Shasta. Painting that I did for my grandparents because as a little kid, I would spend my summers in a small town called Bernie near Mount Shasta. And so I wanted to do a painting that brought me back to that time as a kid and hanging out up there, and where I would be in Bernie, I could always see Mount Shasta in the distance, and so that was kind of the thought here. This painting, from a technical standpoint, this was the first painting where I tried to paint a mountain in my own style. I didn't want to follow there is some Ross elements here, but I didn't want to follow just the Ross pattern. I wanted to create my own pattern, and so that's about all I can really say for this one. Is I was learning fleshing out my own style with painting mountains and trees and all that. I'll wrap up this episode with number 10, called Hydrangeas and Light, my very first still life. I had a photograph of hydrangeas, and I also modeled it after another Ross painting, but this one's much different from his version. And messed around a lot with the light and shadow. and I think it comes out okay. I was pretty happy with it. I'm still pretty happy with it today. I think it has a nice look to it. So that's Hydrangeas and Light. 24 by 36 was the biggest painting to date when I did this one. And it was a tough one. Flowers are hard to paint. I haven't painted a flower since this one, my 10th painting here. It was tough. A lot of fun, but it was a challenge. Well, the grandfather clock over here is going off, so I think that means I better clam up and end this episode. If you haven't turned off already, thank you for sticking with me. I'm glad you're so interested in what I've done. It's been a while. It's been 10 years ago. In fact, I had a little note here to remind myself which painting was coming next, because now I've got 50 paintings and it's getting harder and harder to remember what order I painted them in. But thanks for sticking around and wanting to learn about where I came from. So in a future episode, probably after the next episode, I will continue with this flashback. We've covered 1 through 10. We'll cover 11 through 20 in the next episode. And, well, we might even do up to 25. Who knows? So, thanks a lot. And next episode, you'll see... Here's a teaser for you. Next episode, you're gonna see my newest and largest painting to date. This guy is huge, 36 by 60, talking 3 feet by 5 feet. That's a big sucker. So if you're interested, come back and check it out. If you're on my Facebook fan page, you already know what I'm painting. Or go on my blog too and check it out. And hey, check me out too on Pinterest and Instagram. I have that too. So, alright, enough of that crap. Alright, thanks a lot. See you next episode.